A young orphan boy who goes to live with his warlock uncle who lives next door to a witch, and they're trying to stop a doomsday clock, which is going to turn time backwards because human beings are so reprehensible that we've got to eradicate them. So quite sort of a film for our time.
We're the good warlock and witch. We're trying to stop
the clock.
Jack, I mean, Lewis, the little boy, is this wonderful oddball, and he's picked on by the other kids. How did you relate to...
I mean, I had some experiences being bullied. I think everyone has at some point felt threatened, you know, at school where they throw you in the garbage can. Did you get garbaged? And that's one of the great things about this movie. The heart and soul of it is embracing your inner weirdness. And I thought you did a beautiful job of bringing that to the center of it.
If you think about social media, everybody's putting a filter on their life. You know, everyone's finding the angle and filtering it to make their life seem like this incredible thing that's happening. You know, people aren't showing their flaws. We're teaching ourselves to hide their flaws. And I think about when I was a kid and I was like the little weird fat kid with a unibrow that was into horror movies.
What happened?
What happened? Well, you know, and I was certainly bullied for that. Once you kind of accept yourself and embrace it, all the things that make you different are actually what make you special and unique. And that's when you're at your strongest, is when you embrace who you really are.
Do you feel that there has been a really profound culture change since the Me Too movement, or not profound enough?
It's interesting. We talk about this movement as being sort of an isolated blip that's just suddenly, arisen. But I see myself, you know, in a long line of historical achievements and pushes by women. And I think there's some changes that can happen incredibly quickly. Like, you know, those of us who are in the position to have things like an inclusion rider in one's contract, you can get that work.
What does that inclusion rider do?
Well, it just means that, you know, I want, you know, best efforts by the producers who are making the film that make the set inclusive.
Well, Eli, I mean, do you think the Me Too movement has changed things dramatically for men? I mean, has there been a lot of soul searching?
Well, what you've noticed is sort of a global attitude shift. I remember when I first came to Hollywood and I sold my film Cabin Fever, and I went into meetings and men would casually ask me, so which of the two actresses in your movie did you sleep with? I couldn't believe, like, there's kind of this boys club behavior that was just generally accepted in the culture. Now, if anyone asked a question like that, they would get fired. So I don't know if it's people changing their ways or repressing their behavior, but everybody finally feels like we're at a moment where there is a huge awareness and culture shift.
I hope that it continues down this path for some permanent change, because you can see it kind of playing out in our political system too. Because there's someone very, very high up, maybe you would say at the top, who has been accused of some of the most egregious types of sexual harassment. And you can feel the tree beneath him shaking, but somehow he's impervious to any of these things that the rest of us are dealing with head on. So maybe there'll be some fruit falling from the very top. Let's see. One can only hope and dream.
Can't imagine who you're referring to.
No, yeah.
I mean,
it's
Kate,
an orange tree. Let's leave it at that.
Kate, you've really put your money where your mouth is on all of this. I mean, you've said in the past that you've turned down roles if you're not going to get paid equally. Cheeky question: do you know that you're getting paid the same as or more than Jack?
I don't know. I got $2.50 an hour. What did you get?
Oh yeah, somewhere around the same.
I got a free falafel. You know, I think it's so important to remember, you know, we are in a very pointy public industry. And so it's upon us to make those changes and to make them publicly. But there's not a single industry that I can think of where there's equal pay for equal work. And I think it's important to talk about it. You want to know that, you know, in a capitalist economy, what you're being paid for reflects what you're worth, is what you're perceived to be worth. And so therefore, you know, it's an important part of the conversation.